Breithaupt. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Housekeepers podcast. Dare I say, the cleanest hour in podcasting. I am once again, and you're not going to believe this, I'm excited. I'm so excited to be interviewing Mr. Niles Breithaupt. Did I say it right?
That's it.
Light up, Breithaupt. I like the light up, Breithaupt part. That makes it easy.
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult one. You look at it; it's got basically every letter in the alphabet in the last name. So
I would have never guessed Breithaupt.
There have been many times getting called in school or something to that nature where I'm kind of newer and I didn't even know who they were calling. So it's an interesting one.
Oh, because they weren't pronouncing it right?
Yeah, I mean, you get everything from like Breithaupt to things I can't even remember to pronounce stuff. It's just some goofy renditions of the last name for sure.
When I was in the Marine Corps, and we had a kid in boot camp, and his name was like, I think it was kind of like Tarcisio or something. It was so hard to pronounce that the drill instructors just hate, like they just butchered it. And then, you probably had the same experience where they would just make up anything,
Yep. It becomes a thing. Then you're just called whatever the heck they want to call you. And you start realizing when they're saying something super off the wall, they're referring to you.
Yeah. That's pretty outstanding. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited. I'm excited till it looks like you have been in the cleaning world for a long time, in EVS for a long time, because it seems like you've worked for a lot of different places, you spent a lot of time, and you don't look old enough to have spent a lot of time. But
I shaved the beard.
Yeah, good for you.
To look a little bit presentable, right? Otherwise, I look like Grizzly Adams. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on. Like I said, working out the jitters a little bit still, but I'll be all right. So if I fumble my words here and there, forgive me.
No worries.
Yeah, I've been in for a while.
Yeah, that's really great. You just said Grizzly Adams, and I got to tell you, one of my mother's claim to fame, like it's so silly, but one of her claims to fame is she met Grizzly Adams, or what was his name, like Michael Haggerty or something like that. But she met him, and so if you ever meet my mom, I'm sure that story is going to come out. Like she just throws it in there randomly. You know who I met once.
And so I didn't even know Grizzly Adams. I've heard it so many times growing up. Like my dad would say, you get cleaned up, you look like Grizzly Adams, right? I didn't know it was a real person. I thought it was just kind of a moniker to put out there.
Oh no. So Grizzly Adams was a character. Okay. So it was a television show called Grizzly Adams.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So Grizzly Adams, television show, 1970s, early 1980s, and it was about this guy, Grizzly Adams, who lived in nature, lived in the woods, in a log cabin by himself, and he had a friend that was a bear, a grizzly bear.
Okay.
And it was literally a Western type of story, meaning something came up missing, and there was somebody new in town showed up, plus something came up missing, and so that's the story, right? So something's missing, somebody's new, it must be them, dun dun dun, run get them. And that's what the whole storyline tag kind of was, except the big draw was Grizzly Adams literally had a grizzly bear, and it would always end up that the bad guy was caught or cornered by the grizzly bear. And like, rah, the grizzly bear, and you're like, oh my God, they're gonna get eaten. And then this guy would come over and go like, come here, Sally, or whatever the grizzly bear's name was. You're okay. And it'd be like, oh my God, you can talk to bears.
Interesting. I have no idea.
Yeah, Grizzly Adams.
Huh.
It's so funny because my mom is staying with my wife and I right now, and she just made that reference. She just said, oh my God, who I met Grizzly Adams? He's not as big as he, looked on TV. But he had a real bear and blah, blah, blah. And my wife's like, who's Grizzly Adams?
Interesting.
I was like, what are you doing? You're taking away her thunder. She loves Grizzly Adams.
Huh.
We didn't come here to talk about Grizzly. And that's it for the Grizzly Adams radio show.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here. Grizzly Adams. It was a great show. It was it's a great show. This was before, this is before, like the Doolittle shows and like animals talking and all that stuff. So it was fun. It was neat. Anyway, so how you been? You've been in this business for a long time, but you had to shave so you didn't look like Grizzly Adams. It's good.
Right.
The only problem with shaving is then you have to convince everybody you're old enough to buy beer, right? That's the
boy. I wish. I feel pretty broke down. You know what? This has been a long week, but yeah, no, I've been in the industry for a long time. My dad started a company, I want to say 30 years ago, somewhere around there. He worked in a steel factory for like 18 years and kind of had a big family. Couple of, two families got together, and I had seven siblings growing up for a little while, right? So interesting there. Wow. And so yeah, he went out and still worked at the steel factory and started a janitorial / kind of maintenance business on the side. And obviously I needed money growing up, and that's kind of how he and I got to hang out. So it was fun. I never in my wildest dreams thought that there was a career or a career that could be, such a great career in the facility side. It was something that just never registered to me. So I didn't realize that, when I was going to work for him and learning how to strip and wax floors and learning how to, frame or paint or whatever the heck it was we were doing that day, that it would lead to, really a really great career. I've had some awesome opportunities and worked with some amazing people. So it's been fun. Tiring, but it's fun.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, there are so many awesome folks in facilities, and I think the janitorial side is where I've really spent the majority of my time. I mean, I've worked on the construction and maintenance side quite a bit, the engineering side a little bit, but the janitorial staff, and I think we were talking about this when we were on the phone, kind of chatting a while back, that I think a lot of the janitorial staff in the past have not really been lifted up in the way they should, meaning kind of looked down on. It's like, well, you know what, you're cleaning and I run this business or whatever it is. And I think over the last couple of years, it's really allowed us to shine a light on the folks, the frontline folks, right? I mean, they are literally kind of the gears that allow a lot of this stuff. And now infection prevention specialists, keeping folks safe. And so I've enjoyed that part of it. It's a huge industry and a lot of really amazing folks in it.
Yeah, no question. Let's go back to the beginning. So, because I still don't want to gloss over that your dad started his own company 30 years. I just absolutely love that, especially on a part-time basis, working full-time and then just starting to do this other thing part-time. You're in Sacramento. Is that where you grew up?
No. So I grew up in a place called Traverse City, Michigan. And to be a true Michigander, I have to do this, right? So
yeah, you have to go like, all right, where?
And it's right. And I'm flipped here. So I got to.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. So it's right where your pinky kind of meets your ring finger there. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous place for about 2.5 months out of the year.
Oh, that's right? It. It's a small window.
I'm just being biased now because I've been in California for a while and the weather is always wonderful. You know, a great thing about the state. But so Traverse City is where I grew up. It was much smaller back then. But it's grown. My goodness, it's grown. And right now I'm kind of splitting time between Michigan and California.
And so you said you had 7 siblings when you were growing up?
I did. I had, let me see here.
Where are you are you in the middle, the end? Which end are you on?
I'm like smack dab in the middle.
Okay.
And it was between 2 households, but some brothers and sisters on top and some brothers and sisters on the bottom. It was interesting. It was interesting. My family is awesome. I couldn't ask for a better family, but Yep. Older siblings can be interesting sometimes. And I was
I'm
one, so I'm sure they'd say the same about me. So
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm the youngest of four. And so all I could say about older siblings is they can be quite mean
right. Well, yeah.
to a snot-nosed little whiner like myself.
Yeah. Well, you see, and I was a knucklehead
Yeah,
sometimes. So I'm sure I deserved a good portion of the
the
ribbing that I
abuse.
got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I definitely deserved it. Still didn't like it though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
under
what
the
was it
guise
like?
of toughening you up, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fair. That's
it's
fair.
so
I love the analogy, and it's not really even I mean, you can use it as an analogy, but it's a truth in that if you find a cocoon, a caterpillar cocoon, when a butterfly is forming and you cut it out of the cocoon, the butterfly will not be able to fly because it has to break out by itself. That's the only way it can toughen up, get strong enough to fly, is it has to go through that process of breaking through the cocoon by itself. So you don't do it any favors by cutting it out by cutting it out. So
interesting. I like
it's a
that.
nice little analogy.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up there then? Doors never locked. Didn't have to wear a helmet as a kid on a bicycle. You knew everybody. Street lights
Yeah.
on. You had to go home.
It was,
That
I
kind
was
of rural.
just talking to a colleague about this, about the difference right now. And it was funny because when you're younger, I would hear my parents talk about, oh, it was so much different. And I walked uphill both ways in 8 feet of snow to
5 feet of snow.
school.
Yeah, yeah.
And, or so, but yeah, it was gorgeous, right? It's kind of a little resort town. So there's a phrase says a view of the bay is worth half the pay. So I joke with everybody and I say, well, I grew up in the Caribbean of the Midwest because that's what it looks like in the summer. Gorgeous sandy beaches. But it was so much smaller, right? I mean, you didn't necessarily know everybody, but the community was a pretty decently tight knit community, um, and it's exploded.
Mm.
It was a great place to grow up, and I'm incredibly grateful that I was able to grow up there and kind of get to my young adulthood. I was a knucklehead as a young man, as I said. So
Did you play sports?
I did. Yeah. So I played football for a little bit. I played soccer. I played hockey. I was injured when I was about 14. I was riding my bicycle, and they used to have those old handlebars. They came out like this, and then it was almost like horns.
Yeah, yeah. What were
Um,
like what were they called? Those were those like chopper handlebars? Is that what you're thinking of?
no, it was like it was for mountain biking, so you could really, if you were, I don't even know what the heck to call them, but they were little things that you screwed on and you tightened them on, so it gave you an extra grip at the
Oh,
top
I
of your
know what you're talking
handlebars.
about. Okay. Okay.
And I ended up getting impaled on a fence, and I was 14 years old, I think 14. My mom was behind me, riding in a car, and we were going to get muffins. It's this awesome place back in the day called the Muffin Shop. So yeah, it hooked, and I ended up flipping over my bike and landing on this wrought iron fence that had the spades on it. So I had kind of spades on the side and one up the top. And I remember just kind of coming to a little bit, and my hand was right here, and it felt kind of weird. Well, that's because my chest had stretched out that far, and then the other one was kind of in my rib cage, or my chest, forgive me, and poked my lung and the whole thing. So it was crazy. I ended up picking myself up off of this fence. I remember just looking at my mother and saying, "Well, I think I'm hurt," or something to that extent. And next thing I knew, we were going to the hospital. And anyway, so I did play sports until then, and
Holy,
um,
you got impaled on a fence.
it was a pretty crazy story.
Sounds terrible.
I had a huge, my chest on one side was a huge lump. It was full of clot. It was pretty bad. They had to cut a hole in it and push it out. And um, yeah, so that was that was a bummer. I had this great scholarship to a hockey school that I had won through the last season here on hockey school, and I didn't have that opportunity. And after I healed up, I just became a skater boy and a snowboarder, and my sports career kind of ended there. So
Yeah, and you stopped riding bicycles or going near fences?
certainly for a while. It was
Wow.
a little bit traumatic at that age.
Yeah. 14.
It was a bummer.
Boy, I cried over any of the smallest scrape when I was 14. Everything was just like, ah.
I
Couldn't
was,
imagine.
I was a pretty accident prone youngster. I'm
Yeah.
tall and skinny, and so sometimes coordination wasn't necessarily my best suit. So it happens.
I can relate. I can definitely relate. Did you so then you became a skater boy, so then skateboards, snowboards.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And
Very
which was
cool.
great. Met
Yeah.
some really great guys, and grew up in still kind of a smaller town. So we were just all over the place. It was great.
So
I
how
enjoyed it.
old were you when you started to work with your dad?
Oh wow. I want to say, and now I wasn't working a whole lot at that age, but about 8 or 9 or 10 years old.
Oh wow, okay.
I can't remember specifically, but he started it when I was pretty young, and I
Mm.
used to, after he'd get off of work at the steel company, I'd go and just fall asleep in the lobby of some office building, or car dealership, or whatever
Yeah,
accounts
whatever
we
he
used.
was cleaning, right?
Um, but,
Yeah.
I just started doing stuff around that age and
So did
getting
you
it.
ever work anywhere else when you were a teenager? Did you ever work at fast food or a gas station, or did you always just work for your dad?
For a little bit, I was a dishwasher at a local restaurant. Um, that that was
Yeah.
about it. I worked for my stepfather for a little bit. The title of Lackey Boy. He owned uh, an upholstery shop, so really just I was just cleaning up there too. Other than that, no, not a whole lot, honestly.
Hmm. And then you get out, do you go to college or just go right to work?
I ended up.
Or you went to the military?
I did, yeah. I didn't have a whole lot of opportunities as at that age, and so the military was a gorgeous opportunity, and I ended up joining the Navy.
Isn't Navy boot camp in Michigan?
So it's actually, which by the way was one of the things, the recruiter, that was one of the ways he got me. I was talking to the
Ah,
Army for the longest prior to that, and he said, "Oh, San Diego boot camp, it's gorgeous." I'm like, "California, that sounds wonderful." And come to find out, RTC, which is the recruit training center, is in Chicago, but it's like North Chicago. I can't remember the name of
it may as
the.
well be Michigan,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
right? Like it's just as cold, just as
It's
snowy, lake effect.
Yes, yeah. You get all the fun weather and the
Yeah.
storms, and then my A school, which was another, I think, 3 months, was in NTC, which was across the road. Which again, we were told MRA school is in San Diego, so that was a bit of a bummer. I was a little bummed about that, but it was the best thing that could happen to me, though. Best thing. It was great.
Maybe he was thinking of Coronado. Maybe he thought you were going to go the Navy SEAL route, right? Because isn't
Yeah.
that where
Well.
the Navy SEALs train is Coronado, which is just outside of San Francisco or San Diego?
Yeah. It's gorgeous, gorgeous
Yeah.
town. I have a buddy who's still in. As a matter of fact, we went to high school together, and I got stationed in La Maddalena, Italy. There used to be a Navy base there, and he joined like 6 months after I did, and ended up getting stationed on the same ship. So it was kind of neat. Got to see him
Very
out
cool.
there.
What ship were you on?
The Emery S. Land. It was a subtender slash kind of repair ship. So we had a lot of ships and subs come alongside. I was a machinist in the Navy, so we got to go on some of the subs and machine flanges and things of that nature. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, that is neat. I was on the USS Wasp. That's my claim to fame.
Okay, yeah.
The USS Wasp. I don't know. It was a ship. I think all the ships are the same. Once you're out to sea, you know.
You know what? I missed that part though. That being out to sea. The funny thing is, I'm terrified of sharks. I've never liked sharks. Part of growing up with brothers and sisters, we had a pond, and they'd kind of freak you out.
They
But
didn't tell you that sharks weren't in the pond.
no, well, they would tell you they are in the pond, and then
I
you'd be
know.
swimming around and grab your legs and screaming bloody murder. It was hilarious to everybody, I'm
It's a
sure.
good
Right?
time.
But I loved being out to sea. It was, I don't know, it's an experience you can't really explain until you've been out there and you've been out for a while. You hit a storm, which scary on one side, but on the other side, you're just like, this is amazing. This is crazy.
Yeah, we were out. We were out, and there was a hurricane coming in, and so they were just like, "We're just going to avoid the hurricane," and we just like went, you know, east,
Yeah.
and the hurricane just came right around us, and so a little rough weather, but really, really nothing compared to like when we got back. It was like devastation. We're like, "Oh, that hurricane was mad," because I was stationed in North Carolina at Camp Lejeune,
Okay.
so on
All
the
right.
East Coast. We had a big hurricane problem over here.
When I was getting out, you out process in Norfolk, and my wife
Virginia.
at the time was stationed in Norfolk. Goodness, when we were there, I think there 3 or 4 hurricanes, and we'd always
Yep.
just head up to Michigan. But they get torn up really bad sometimes.
Yeah, they can be pretty hardcore around here. That's pretty awesome. No, I agree. Once you're out at sea, it's pretty fun. Saturday nights, it's chicken wings and ice cream and movies.
Steel Beach, what did they call it? This
Yeah,
Steel
this
Beach something.
the
I forget
Steel
what it was
Beach where you're
called.
sitting down in the hangar and
Yep,
watching a movie. Yeah,
that was great.
Saturday nights on a ship. Come
Yeah.
on. The statistic that's always fun is how many people get pregnant on that ship.
Well, yeah, it was. That's a whole other story to it.
Housekeepers podcast. We're not here to talk about that. By the way, the answer is everybody.
Or married.
Nearly everybody.
Or married. I was one of the married folks.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I read a lot. That's what I did. I read a lot.
Right. Training.
Utilized that library.
Lots of training. Yep.
A lot of training.
Yep.
Yeah, you never lived until you ran on a treadmill while you're out to sea.
Yeah.
That's a whole degree of difficulty.
We're new to the ship and trying to walk in the middle of the storm as the boat is listing sight. You can tell the new guys all the time, right? You're bouncing off the walls like a pinball machine.
You got black eyes, and bloody nose. Like, what happened to you? I was just walking down to the berthing area. Yeah. I don't know what happened. Just getting bounced around. So how long were you in the Navy?
So I got out a little early on a medical discharge. So coming up on almost 4 years, right around there, give or take. And I ended up getting out for a little while and missing it. My wife at the time was still in, and she ended up getting out, and we moved. And so then we're both like, hey, we missed the military, and joined the National Guard, which is a totally different story, right? I mean, that one's fun too. But yeah, so
how long were you in the Guard, or are you still?
No, I got out. Oh gosh, I think I was only in the Guard for 2 years. I'm trying to remember. 06. So I did. Yeah, I think it was a 2-year Guard stint, and I ended up. So that's when I really kind of had a great opportunity in the industry, and I was able to actually out-process. I out-processed so that I could go and take advantage of this wonderful job that was kind of the catalyst to where I've been able to move on to in this place.
What was the job? Who'd you go to work for?
So I went to work for a company called Mopsters, and it was in Sheridan, Wyoming, and we were living in Michigan at the time. And this gentleman hired me on to. It was a carpet cleaning business, but we brought in some additional janitorial and kind of branched out. In Sheridan, Wyoming. It was another interesting story. It was literally, remember at the time I was working a couple of jobs. I was working for my dad's company, and I was working as a cook at a local restaurant, and I was machining part-time at a National Vacuum. I can't remember the name of the company. Anyhow, I apologize. As a machinist, so it was like, goodness, we're still having a little difficulty cutting it, and I was looking on Craigslist, like I've got to do something reached out to this gentleman, and we packed up the car, I think in a week to 2 weeks. I don't remember exactly, and drove to Wyoming. But it was an awesome opportunity, and the experience it allowed me. Right, at that point I had been in, I had supervision and things of that nature, but never to the point where I was really responsible for leading the offering for a company, and being responsible for pulling in business, and also kind of leading the business. So lots of mistakes, but also I learned an unbelievable amount. And it was a good opportunity. It was fun.
I see. I can fall into those YouTube video wormholes of carpet cleaning.
Yeah.
There's these places that bring carpets to them, and they like do all this fine carpet detail work. It's
Yes.
so pretty. It's so great. It's so interesting.
And you can really mess a carpet up if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, uh, there's a lot of ways to ruin a carpet that already looks ruined, but there's a lot of ways to bring a carpet that you would look at and go, "There's no way this can
Yeah.
ever come back," and bring it back to life. I kind of nerd out about a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's
me too.
just the cleaning industry in general, which probably sounds funny to a lot of folks that aren't in the industry, but there are so many nuances, and a lot of the technology they're coming out with, like the for terrazzo floors or marble. Right back in the day, it used to be that just a nasty slurry. It took forever, super specialized, super hard. And now companies are coming out with these pads with the little diamond discs, and
I
you
know.
can train somebody to do it pretty quickly. And there's great margins in that type of work.
I remember when the Boost machine first came out, and 3M had created a new stripping pad. That, you remember those maroon pads?
I sure do.
You didn't need stripper anymore to take wax off a VTC floor. Like that stuff was just like, what?
It
Huh?
was awesome,
How does that work?
especially in EVS, right? The hospital setting, or the settings where you really had to be careful, or clean rooms, and or rooms adjacent, and things of that nature. Yeah, that was a pretty awesome technology. The square scrub and
Yeah.
boost and all that. Yeah,
Yep. The whole idea of mechanical exhaust was such a pain, so hard to do when you're using chemicals to remove wax and stuff off a floor. Their instructions would be, you have to have a mechanical exhaust. I'm like, I'm in a hallway at
yeah,
3 o'clock in the morning. It's winter.
yeah,
Even opening a window isn't gonna work. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Mechanical exhaust. I don't know who's like, it's just very challenging. So they really, really, I mean, to your point, with ionizers, they're taking just
Mhm.
water and making disinfectants out of it. It's
Yeah.
pretty fantastic. Robotic floor care. I mean, it's
It's been amazing to watch. I've had so many great opportunities to work with, like the robotic vacuum cleaner, the Wiz,
yeah,
SoftBank Robotics. In a previous role, I got to work with them. We were kind of bringing that as a solution to some of the high tech spaces, right, where you have just huge hallways, or even tenants, autonomous scrubbers. There's a company out there called Somatic, and it's a restroom cleaning robot. And I remember chatting with the gentleman who started that company, I want to say 3 years ago, and just the way is way smarter than me. The way that they're putting some of these things together, they have this articulating arm, and it fully. Remember the Kyvak machine, right? You
hmm
just spray the walls down and spray everything down. That is a self-contained, or excuse me, the Somatic robot's a self-contained restroom cleaning robot, and it's fully autonomous. It'll go
hmm
through, clean a restroom, you program it in. I mean, it's like back in the day, we're using carnauba wax to wax floors, and it was so arduous, and
yeah.
it didn't last. And
hmm
goodness, some of the strippers that would literally eat your shoes apart as you're trying to strip a
I
floor.
know, I know.
And now the green chemicals and the things they're coming out with, Diversity's got some amazing products. Ecolab has some amazing products. It's goofy how giddy I get thinking about some of this stuff, because it's just fun to me. It's kind of a neat
Yeah,
thing.
no, I agree, and I'm just as excited about it, and I love, what's so fun about that kind of stuff about robotics is I was just at the ISSA show. Did you go to the ISSA show in Vegas?
Not last year. I did
No.
the one prior to that. I'll be heading out this year, though. That's
Oh
really
yeah,
just
good.
keep getting
It's
out with
a
that.
if you're in the cleaning industry, you know, I used to say BSACI. Those are two. Well, they share the space, but one's building service contractors and the other is the international solution something. Anyway, but I was talking to the guys who have some of the robots that are doing some of the cleaning and stuff, and they go, at first we're looking at robotics, like how do we program it to clean this space, and then they're like, well, and then we step back and go, wait, how can we create spaces that make more sense for robots?
Right.
Now you're looking at bathrooms all a different way, right? Like instead of looking at a bathroom and going, how do we program a robot to clean this bathroom? Now you're going, how do we design a bathroom that can be cleaned by a robot? Totally different way of looking at it, but way more effective because, robots have limitations. And, quite frankly, the shape and size of a toilet means really nothing to me.
Yeah.
As a consumer of toilets,
Yeah.
I don't care.
No, I'm with you. Well, and you look at how everything, not just in the industry, but in the world is changing, right? And so if we're looking at more economical and greener solutions, that just makes sense to not just look at, okay, this is just this one industry. Again, it kind of goes back to what we were chatting about earlier in how facility services, and not just the janitorial side, but facility services in general, affects and touches every other part of, quite frankly, everything. But they're just the silent partner in keeping the world clean and fresh. And you don't realize when you walk into a mall, at 10 o'clock in the afternoon or when they just open, that the night before that place was just atrocious, right? You've got an army of folks out there keeping it up to par so that, you're not slipping on that puddle that was there a half hour ago and hurting something. Mall's another tough sector, but
no, it's true. It's true.
The industry is changing. I think the way that a lot of other folks within just the building spaces look at how they're presenting and how they're building out and what they're doing.
Yeah, I love being on the design side of clean because I think it's so important. If you could start talking to an architect before they build the building. One time I was at a hospital and they had created, they're going to build this new wing and millions and millions of dollars in this new wing. And they had taken down the appropriate walls and put up the sheetrock and the plastic, to block off, one side from the other because they were ripping it apart and redoing all this stuff. And somebody just had the idea to post the plans on that wall. So imagine just a blown up version of the blueprints that are on that wall. And within just a couple of weeks, that plan was torn apart by every employee who walked by and looked at it. Yep. And they were some of the greatest comments. It was like circling a surgical center going, there needs to be a sink here. And then in a room, like, this won't work that right. The door needs to open the other direction because when the page, like the architects would never have even seen that side had they not put it, and it was already in place. It was already in place. It had already been agreed on. The price had already been put in. And then they gave it to the nurses and the doctors and the support staff. And it just made it look like, and I never saw the end result, but it looked like they had a real opportunity to create a space that was workable. I mean, how many times have we gone into a space and seen it like, who designed this thing, People obviously not in the business.
It's such a great thought though, right? I mean, for two reasons. One, how many times have you walked into a facility and there's one maintenance closet or janitorial closet, however you want to frame it, with no sink, right? And you have to go across the entire campus, for crying out loud,
Big
just
zero
to find
set.
a mop sink. But the second part is that goes back to just in the industry or in leadership in general. I asking the folks who are there or who it affects the most, right? I mean, I think you have a team just for solutions for, hey, how can we do this better? Instead of just what is supposed to be the brain trust saying, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. You can get so many amazing ideas. And there are certain things that are universal but especially within different facilities types, right? You're going from GMP to, if we're in a industrial type space or manufacturing, to hospitals, on the EVS side. If you go out and just ask the team, the folks that are there all the time, you can come up with a solution that would have never been thought of from the folks who are supposed to be that thought leadership piece of it. And it's working together, right? There have to be some compromises, but that I think is one of the things I enjoy the most on the leadership side in the industry, is engaging those frontline folks that a lot of times they're not consulted on things like that, and it makes their life easier. And again, back to the fact that they touch your customer. In a hospital, they touch your patients. Your HCAP scores are a portion of that is based on the end user's experience, right? And so that type of morale and that type of just letting them know, you know what, I know that you're a team member, but you've got a solution. I know it. I know you've got a solution. So let's come up with it together. Or equipment. You've got companies spending millions and millions of dollars on R&D for the next best thing for the mop, and they put it out there, and in 2 seconds you got a floor guy that's going, this is ridiculous. This isn't working. Like, why wouldn't they get a focus group, as goofy as that may sound, to help develop some of this stuff?
It's not goofy at all, though. And in fact, it's the people who go, hey, let's put a focus group together, are the people who are going to succeed the most.
Mm-hmm.
I remember HCAP scores are one of the most challenging things for EVS in hospitals.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know what HCAP scores are basically, like you were saying, they're scores given by the user, so by the patient, usually within 14 days after they leave. Their survey is sent to them, and it's a 1 through 5. But 1 being really bad, 5 being superior service. The problem is when it comes to payment and reimbursement, only 5s count. And so how often are you giving the EVS team a 5? And the answer is not often at all. And what's so messed up about that is in a typical workspace, it's usually around 25 to 30 to 1. That's the ratio. 25 to 30 employees to 1 cleaner. Just on the basic, like in a healthcare environment, in a nursing home, a 120 bed nursing home, which is a pretty average size, has about 150, maybe close to 175 employees and 4 housekeepers. You know what I mean? Like, the ratio is so unbelievably one-sided that the idea that you're not going to find something dirty is just ridiculous, right?
It's absolutely. It's one of the things I'm super passionate about. I think as an industry, we need to get better about. Literally just yesterday, talking to a gentleman who's here with us, kind of running through this survey audit, but acknowledging the fact, like you just said, right? If you got 4 housekeepers that are making a fraction, especially in a healthcare environment, of what these other folks are making, and the HCAP scores, in my opinion, I could get in trouble for saying this, but I feel like they're a little bit flawed, because there are certain things that you don't necessarily have a lot of control over.
No, I don't think you're getting in trouble at all. I had an instance where I was working with a hospital, and they hired me to come in and talk about how to raise HCAP scores for EVS. And so the first thing I did was like, let's see your actual scores. I want to see the actual surveys coming back.
Yeah.
And there was something profound, and that is anytime it was housekeeping, they would give a low score and they would write NA. The hell does NA mean? Right? Like, not applicable? How is it? And then it dawned on me. The family members, who are the ones generally filling out the form, are coming in at night to see their loved ones, or it's the loved ones themselves, the patient themselves is filling out the form. But during the day when EVS is there cleaning, they're at surgery, in rehab, sleeping off surgery, right? They don't see the housekeeper. And so that was that whole aha for me was like, NA means they're not even recognizing that housekeeping came in.
Yeah.
So then the quest came, how do we get credit for being there? Right. So then that's the big draw. Like, how do you even let everybody know? We have a cleaner, we have a housekeeper who comes to our house. She comes every 2 weeks and she spends all day here. My wife, the night before, and is certainly the morning of, before she gets here, she cleans.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's a maniac, right? She's out cleaning this and cleaning. I'm like, the housekeeper's going to be here tomorrow. What are you doing? And then the housekeeper comes, spends all day here in the house, and my wife comes home. And as soon as my wife comes home, she tries to look for evidence that the housekeeper was there. So she's literally walking around going, was there dust there yesterday? I'm not sure. I don't remember, but the bed's made, like she's looking for evidence. And I'm saying to the housekeeper, that's a problem she shouldn't be having. You should be going, how do I make it? I have a friend who was on the show and who cleans houses in Massachusetts, in Boston area. And she always leaves cookies for her customer. So she's cleaning once a month, twice a month, whatever. But when her customer comes home and sees there's cookies on the counter, they don't go and see if the cleaner was there. They know the cleaner was there. Right. Yep. And so it's that mentality that I was at that hospital with. And I'm going, okay, we need to leave something behind.
It's one of the, it's funny. It's one of those things, right? There are a few key things where folks, at least in the industry, say, well, listen, if these spaces are clean, a lot of the time you won't look at anything else, right? A super shiny floor. If you come in and the floor is super shiny, it's just that mental, okay, holy smokes, this place is super clean. The restrooms, another huge one. And then entrances. You walk in, you got a big glass door and there's handprints, and you could have spent, you could have had an entire crew on the inside. But
you're speaking my language here, brother.
It's just one of those. But I mean, even to that point, when I was at UC Davis Med Center, this was a while ago, but the HCAP scores, obviously, another huge one, and that was often is where are the housekeepers, right? And so it's part of that rounding. And how do you get creative of not being in the patient's way, but also allowing folks to see, or even honest to goodness, it's almost anything where you have a day staff, day porters. Visibility is huge. And not only visibility, but how your folks are presented, right? Everyone's uniform, it looks like they're showing up to get the job done. Because a lot of the time you can forego so many issues, at least in my opinion, my experience, with just visibility and showing the right tools, showing that they know what they're doing.
Yep. Two things I want to say. Number one, the big outcome that we took away from the Pennsylvania hospital system, which is where we were working with the HCAP scores, is our solve, and we tried a bunch of different things. Our solve was to have the housekeeper, every hospital room in this hospital has a whiteboard. And it has like the doctor's name, your nurse's name, save your urine, your whatever, whatever the instructions are for the patient. We started putting the housekeeper's name on that whiteboard. So your housekeeper is
super effective, right? I'm
eliminated the was my housekeeper here. Eliminated it. Didn't need to see her. Just knew that, oh, it's Kim today. Oh, it's Marianne today, or whatever, like every day the housekeeper, and you're putting little smiley faces up there and, that kind of thing. So that was a huge solve for us. And then, that was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So now think about it like this. So now come full circle, the pandemic hits, and right after the pandemic, so 2021, offices start opening up and we start getting more calls to come back into work and start, providing cleaning services. And one of the first things we do is the first questions we get is, how do our customers know that this place has been disinfected? We want to make sure that they understand it's safe and blah, blah, blah. And one of the big takeaways that I had from the HCAP score 10 years ago situation was the visibility piece. And 100%. So we said, how about we take one, because we're all cleaning at night because we're doing Class A office buildings. So how about we take one of our friendlier cleaners and have her start at 2:00 instead of 5.
Yep.
Now, she's only going to be able to do a small amount of what she normally does, but she's going to be visible.
It's an investment. No, it's brilliant.
People are going to see the housekeeper. And
Yep.
just by seeing, oh, you're the house. This place is clean.
No,
Whether it is or not.
Yep, you forego so many opportunities for issues, or so many issues that way. And not only that, but that's that person. It's one of those things. So every time I've hired somebody at kind of a DM level or above, one of my mantras is, look, if you can survive in this industry and be successful, because this industry is a very tough industry at times to be in. But if you can be successful, I honestly think you can go to any other industry and be successful. It's more of a study in sociology than it is in cleaning. Processes you can teach anybody. Mm-hmm. Learning how to interact with folks, especially when folks are upset or unfairly upset in many instances, right? Where it's always, it was the janitors, it was the housekeepers. This light is busted. This, something's missing. That kind of stuff happens. But mm-hmm. I guess the point I'm trying to make is when that person is there in the day, they become human. And there's a human interaction at that point, especially if somebody that understands the dynamic of working with your customer. A lot of the time you can mitigate any opportunity, not any, but many opportunities for issues. I agree. The human factor is huge. It's just
I think you said it earlier when you were talking about how important the shiny floor is. And if more people understood that, mm-hmm. It's so easy. If you have a shiny floor, you're let's say it the other way around. If you don't have a shiny floor, if your building when you walk in doesn't present well, you have a lot of overcoming to do as an organization. You have to yeah. You're starting from negative to go, no, we are a good place to work. No, we are a good place to live. We are a good place that you can trust us. You have to do a lot of work mm-hmm. that a shiny floor does for you.
Yeah.
A shiny floor just gives you, I walk into a business with shiny floors and it just doesn't smell, no odors.
Yep.
I mean, I have no problem spending my money there. But it's dark, it's dingy, the floors look terrible. Forget it.
You just kind of feel gross. You just feel it's off-putting immediately. What's funny too is a lot of the time, to your point about writing the housekeeper's name on that whiteboard. Again, I feel like that's number one. It makes that role human, right? It takes away any anonymity of this is just a faceless drone that comes around and takes care of this for us.
Let me add that the housekeepers were very uncomfortable. They're like, that's a nursing whiteboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, put your name up there. What's the matter with you?
But a lot of the time, and I think this is just a life lesson or a life rule in general, a lot of the time the simplest thing is the most effective. Right, too many words or too much busyness, and people are just kind of drone or fizzle out, and not enough obviously isn't great. But even for solutions in anything, especially our industry, we were talking about a lot of the technology earlier. There's some amazing technology out there, but that isn't always the best tool for your customer or the folks on the front line. Right. And I think especially in the industry, folks are set in their way. This is how we've done it for a long time. And this is the simplest. And so introducing a lot of that new stuff can be a challenge. Not to say that we shouldn't, because there are some amazing, I worked on the innovations team for janitorial in my prior role. And there's some cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite things, it's super low tech, is a run sheet with that's visually, aesthetically pleasing to look at. It's not busy. Tells you where your housekeeper or your janitor is at throughout the day with some wiggle room, right? That's a safety thing. Folks can look at it and go, hey, it's 3:00. We've got a fire on this side. They're going to be on this side. We can go get a hold of them. Or you got somebody new that's new, training. On the flip side, you've got, hey, this is the process for cleaning the restroom. But the point is, it's a piece of laminated paper that looks nice, or it has SDS information on the back. It just gives you kind of that, okay, I at least I have some direction, right? I know what's going on, and it doesn't have to be super high tech.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I run a it's funny. I run a housekeeping management training company. So I train housekeeping managers in healthcare. And you wouldn't believe you could see that just the aha when you're like, let's just draw it. Let's draw a little stick figure housekeeper up here.
Yeah.
We'll draw the end of the day over here somewhere. Let's just map it out. And you're just like, oh, okay. Okay, I see.
You mean they're running back to the closet 15 times, and when we could just implement this, or yeah.
I have a love-hate relationship with microfiber, I must tell you.
Yeah.
I do very much so love the idea of not running back and forth to a closet or for anything. I really do like that. But I still struggle with the combination sweeping a floor and mopping a floor at the same time using the same tool. It's still a little tough because it's still that and luxury vinyl. I don't know how I feel about luxury vinyl either. So,
well, gosh, oh my goodness,
you want to get into the luxury vinyl, huh?
Yeah, it's. I love the idea of a maintenance-free floor. It sounds amazing.
Oh my God, it's the epitome. Of course, me too.
Great.
It's just not accurate.
Right, exactly. Let's live in reality for a moment. With some of these, it's like, no, goodness, you still need. Listen, just because it says you never need to lay finish on this, or you don't need to lay any sort of protectant, it's still a porous material, right?
Very
Most
soft.
of it is, and it's super soft. It's going to get dirty. You gotta, I don't know, some of that.
I gotta tell you, I was working in a nursing home maybe 2 years ago now, and they spent a ton of money putting brand new luxury vinyl down in their front lobby. And I was like, I don't think a front lobby is a good place for luxury vinyl. I mean, a front lobby just gets beat up. It's much better to have granite floors, quite honestly. Something very durable.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it's going to look great. Well, what I didn't even take into account, what nobody else did, was their rehab unit was on the ground floor. And there was a path that we didn't pay attention to, that the rehab folks were rehabbing patients, and they would walk across the front lobby, getting them to walk. And so they would go from the rehab center across the front lobby down a hallway. It didn't take a month before those floors were completely ruined by walkers. The actual walkers, because even though they have a little rubber stopper on them, or they have a tennis ball on them, those tennis balls, those little rubber stoppers get worn right through, and you can't tell because it still looks like it, but it's metal under there, and just gouging the floor. Just a month, all that beautiful brand new luxury
Probably
vinyl.
Super expensive too.
And they can't afford to replace it.
Yeah.
So it now just looks that way.
Yeah,
it's now just terrible.
Well, and even back east, you're dealing with, in the winter, you've got all that snow
sand,
and the salt. That salt is essentially sandpaper.
Yeah,
it's one of the. Every time you're hiring a floor guy, right? What is the absolute first step in proper floor care? And a lot of folk, it's sweeping them. It's your walk-off mats. Number one, right? Especially back east, because that salt, snow, it just kills a floor, and especially if it's a soft material like that, you're in trouble.
Yeah, we were going so far, and I'm not opposed to doing this. As much as this sounds silly to a lot of people, but maintenance will go out the front door and they'll throw salt down and sand down, and I'll have my housekeeper, my floor tech, go right behind them and sweep it up. As soon as that salt is as soon as that snow or ice is melted, get that stuff picked up. You don't want. I have a friend, Adam, who did a lot of training with me. So he works in EVS as well, in healthcare. and he was working for me. He was in this building, and he swore that the people who were bringing in the sand, because we had a sand truck coming in for the driveway, they're crushing up concrete blocks. And like he had his whole theory. That's why his floor. And I have no idea if he was right, but how many phone calls I got over, they're putting concrete blocks, in the sand piles, and they're being crushed into this, and that's what's killing my floors. And just like sandpaper, either way.
It's rough stuff. And then a lot of that salt on a floor, you'd get that. You try to lay some finish, if you didn't neutralize the pH on that, and it would literally just turn into powder. So at Mobsters, as a matter of fact, because I had never dealt with that before when I was up in Wyoming, and I was doing a floor, and it kept powdering like that. And I was like, what in the heck is going on? I did not understand. And anyhow, called my dad, and he was like, oh yeah, you got to do this. And that was back in the day where it was vinegar and water. Yeah, just throw some vinegar in there and mop it up, and you're good to go.
And it's not even back in the day. We still use vinegar and water.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we still do.
I haven't.
Vinegar and water. And you know what else works really great is regular old Dawn dish soap.
Yeah, Dawn is amazing for
it really is.
But a billion things.
In healthcare, it's almost sacrilegious to use soap and water on a floor. You have to have disinfectant.
Yeah.
And I just want to go like, listen, if the patient's on the floor, we have something else to talk about other than whether or not there's a
right. Yeah.
That's
an issue. That's an issue. Yeah.
It's a different issue altogether. Can we stop using harsh disinfectants on the floor on my wax? Can we please just use soap and water? Because soap and water on a wax floor keeps a wax floor nice and hard and stable. Those disinfectants beat it the heck up.
Well, now I think the overuse of chemicals,
I know,
especially COVID, right? With all of the hand sanitizer everywhere, and on a gorgeously waxed floor, and then you've got just pits, right? Because it's just dropping all over the place. Or, it's one of the fun challenges, right? But you'd never know unless you were in the industry, and
I know
the floor guys just want to wring your neck sometimes, like you're gonna have to go take care of this again. So
I remember, as much as the pandemic really kind of highlighted our importance, it also highlighted a lot of ignorance regarding cleaning surfaces, because first thing that happened was every chemical company in the country said you need a 10-minute contact time for it to have any kill ratio rating on COVID-19. And number one, that's wrong. It not only is it wrong like from a chemical point of view, but it was dangerous. And I can't tell you how many people learned the hard way that a laminate surface, there's two different types of laminate. There's a high temp laminate and a low temp laminate. And I know I'm keeping you a little long, so pardon me. Too good of a conversation.
This is good.
There's a high temp laminate and a low temp laminate. And high temp laminate is waterproof. Low temp laminate isn't. It's very porous. And who buys low temp laminate furniture? Well, healthcare does. Because all the dressers, all the overbed tables, the bedside tables, they're all low temp laminate because they're half the price of a high temp laminate. And you wouldn't know any difference ever until you want to keep a surface wet for 10 minutes. Then all of a sudden, it's bubbling up, it's cracking. It's, oh my God, these things are cheap. They're made out of particle board. Everything's made out of particle board. You just wouldn't know it if you didn't try to keep it wet for 10 minutes.
Absolutely. It's not. It's what's crazy to me. It really did shed a light on. Like I think a lot. I think just here I am in kind of the weird space of the facility side, but I feel like as a population, folks need to have much more patience and reverence. And that's a strong word, but for the frontline folks and for the housekeepers and just for people in this industry and in general that are out there doing that, right? I mean, the folks that during COVID when it was scary, when there wasn't a lot of information for a lot of folks out there taking care of that stuff. And shoot, I was a part of a team that was writing our COVID policy at the previous company. And I remember from day to day, as we're trying to pull information from, what the CDC is putting out and what the state was putting out, it was literally changing from day to day to day to day. And everybody in their brother wanted to become a sanitizer
Expert.
manufacturer, right? Or an expert, or no, this process is going to kill this person. It's like, you guys, the same principles that we've lived by are really still the same principles we're going to have to live by. It's like you can't. I don't know. I feel like a lot of folks jumped off the deep end, but it just was kind of chatting on your point about 10-minute dwell times. Like, what is there? C. diff, for instance. I mean, that's the craziest thing I can think of off the top of my head to have to disinfect. That's not even that long, right?
No.
I mean, and that's almost impossible to kill, right? So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Do you know why everybody went to a 10-minute contact time? Because I was very curious. I was like, why not 11 minutes? Why did everybody go to 10? Why not 10:50? Why not 11? Why not 15 minutes? And then I looked it up, and the FDA doesn't allow a chemical to have anything longer than a 10-minute kill time.
Interesting.
Oh, so everybody
so
just
they would have had a
2-hour
kill time.
Yeah,
right?
if they did, then we'd be just putting furniture in pools.
Oh goodness.
So that's the only reason, because it's the FDA had that guideline, and so nobody wanted to get sued, and so everybody's like 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Meanwhile, the environment is no longer good because we've just killed it with 10-minute contact time for no reason, and we brought these foggers up, and
which is another
just
a whole other one that got scary for a good period of time.
I appreciate a fogger for electronics. I appreciate a fogger for gym equipment, where it's really hard to get in and out, for a disinfect. But on the day-to-day, handrails, tabletops, chair, what are you doing?
And the residual chemical that can be left over if it's not properly done, right? You look at a terminal clean of an OR. Are they in there fogging after every case? Are they in there fogging at the end of the day? It's like, no, there's no need for it. Much better ways to get around.
Yeah, not only is there no need for it, but disinfectants have no ability to penetrate, meaning they don't have the ability to take a drop of blood, you spray disinfectant on top of it. It doesn't have the ability to kill all the virus in the drop of blood, only the surface.
Right. Difference between cleaning and disinfecting, right? I mean, it's that initial wipe is super important. Yep.
I always do this demonstration because, again, I train housekeeping managers for a living, and I always do a demonstration where I'll have a microfiber rag, a cotton rag, and a paper towel, and I'll ask them, which is the most effective to use in cleaning? Everybody chooses the microfiber, and the truth is, I was tricking you. They're all the same.
Yeah.
Because all they are is a vehicle for disinfectant.
Yeah.
You can put as much disinfectant on a paper towel as you can a microfiber.
Yeah.
I actually had a lady, she was with the state. I'm not going to mention the state. She's an epidemiologist. So she was like one of those really, really smart people when it comes to viruses. And I did that demonstration, and she lost her mind. She said, I shouldn't be training people. I'm giving out false information. That's dangerous. And so then I was like, ma'am, have you ever heard of a bleach wipe? She's like, yeah. I go, that's a paper towel with bleach on it. It's paper.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Well, you didn't say bleach. I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah. Very.
But it's to your point, I can just get a little nerdy here when it gets to.
That's great. It's great. Honestly, this has been. I love this conversation. Shoot, even the last time we talked, I mean, I get lost in this world. It's. I guess I wouldn't still be in it after 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
if I did, anyways, yeah, I enjoyed the conversation.
I do too, and I appreciate you taking the time just to talk shop with me, because I just
Absolutely.
absolutely love talking shop. I love hearing about new ideas. I love sharing stuff that I've learned and seen,
Yeah.
and it's so fun.
No, thank
It's
you.
so fun.
Thanks for inviting me on and giving me the chance. It's
Yeah,
been great.
I did want to ask if you know who. I was looking on LinkedIn, and I think we have here. I have it up. We have 264 connections in common.
Interesting. I'm gonna pull my phone up.
Isn't
I
that
know
ridiculous?
this is not good to do while on, but I want to pull it up so that I can look at the same time. That's crazy though.
It's
That's a lot.
ridiculous, right? And I was gonna go and like, how do you see your connections? Like how do you see mutual connections? And I'm not sure, but I wonder. Do you know who? Do you know Finest Jones?
Oh my goodness, it sounds
The,
super
the only
familiar.
reason I ask is because he works for UC Davis, and so when I saw that you worked for UC, but you worked for UC Davis Medical, and he's at the school, so
Yeah, the name sounds really familiar though.
yeah, he's a
Really
really
familiar.
great guy. Really great guy.
Huh.
Finest Jones,
I'm gonna have to
UC
figure out how I
Davis.
can see who both of our connections are.
Yeah, 264. So
That's crazy.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that's a lot.
guess and say you know some really cool people.
Look, I'm super grateful. I had the opportunity to work with and interact with amazing folks that are much smarter than me and just have just a great just have a lot of respect in the industry. It's been really neat, right? I mean, I've bounced around. I've been pulled around actually. I moved from a company, ABM to ISS, from an old boss who said, "Hey, I came over here. This is great, and would you like to come over?" And I said, "Sure." And I had the same opportunity again, but in my interactions, boy, I've met some really awesome folks, and I've learned a lot. I think that's one of the things is you're always learning in the industry. There's always the next latest and greatest, but one of those staples, I think, simplest solution is the best. Like the
Yeah,
other one,
agreed.
be a chameleon without losing your soul. I say it all the time, and so a lot of time my team is like, "Oh my gosh, just shut up, stop. I don't care anymore." But anyway, to the point. Yeah, I've got to meet some really cool folks, and it's been fun. It's been
Yeah,
a good.
me too.
Good
So
journey.
before we get out of here, I want to ask, where are you now, and how can I help? Are you looking for staff? Are you looking for help? Is there a way to, if you are looking for staff, how do folks find you? What do they have to do?
Yeah, by all means, that's awesome. So now I'm with a company, Advanced Building Maintenance Inc. They're out of Sacramento. I moved from kind of one of the larger big companies to a smaller company, but still a large company. And staff is one of those things. I think everybody in the industry. I'm hiring a lot of, or getting ready to hire some more director level folks, and area manager folks. So my LinkedIn is probably the best place to reach out,
Okay.
and or my email that is on the LinkedIn there. So yeah, it's
And it's Advanced Building Maintenance. Is that the name of the company?
correct. Yeah, Advanced Building Maintenance Incorporated.
What's the website? Do you know?
It is ADV Building Maintenance. That's so bad. I'm still kind of new. That's terrible. My boss is going to kill me.
I'm
He's
going
an
to put it
amazing
in the
guy.
show notes. I'll find it. I'll find you and make sure it's in the show notes so that everybody can find you. So you are hiring, you're looking for directors, you're looking for area managers.
Frontline employees.
Great. By the
We're
way, I know the greatest management trainer out there. So if you know,
awesome. 100%. 100%. No, listen, we're expanding really. We just picked up another sports and entertainment venue this week,
awesome.
as a matter of fact. We are Our EVS vertical is exploding right now,
Good
and
for
we've
you.
got some great folks. But yeah, so we're growing. So I'm always looking for good folks, and it's just moving from kind of the larger team to, I was overseeing a whole bunch, and now it's more so just the West. So basically Arizona to Hawaii. But
I'm
just
sorry.
more
Did you have
nimble.
openings in Hawaii? Because I know some people.
So not at the moment, but that's I've lived in California for 11 years now, and I still haven't been to Hawaii. So I'm getting ready
Yeah.
to spend some time touring sites out there and doing some QA. Is
Yeah.
my
What is it?
boss.
A 5 or a 6 hour flight from you, right? It's not that terrible.
I think it's a 5-hour flight.
Yeah. Yeah.
About the
I've been a
same
few
as going back
times.
east.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you so much
yeah,
for coming on. And like I said, just talking shop. It's super fun just to talk about it. So every time I find somebody a fellow little EVS nerd, I like it. It's always really
yeah.
great.
No, thank you again for having me on. This has been great. My jitters are gone, and so thanks. It was painless, so I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
And how do you say it again? Is it light, bright type,
Like
bright?
light up, bright up. It's
Light up, bright up. That's right.
yeah,
Niles, bright up. Which if you look at the spelling, you're going to be like, that's not bright up. Yes, it is. He says it is. It is.
that's right. That's right.
That's all I can
It's the
say.
way I know it, anyways. Yeah.
Make sure you check out Advanced Building Maintenance for all of your needs, especially west of Arizona, from what I understand, which is your
Yes, sir.
territory, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And thank you so much. And as always, this show is brought to you by the Housekeeping Leadership Academy. If you know somebody who works in EVS and they want to become a manager, or they are a manager and they want to get better, they want to become that knowledge worker to bring the most value to their organization so that they can get more value. Because let's face it, none of us are making enough, right? So pay your people more. That's the tagline of the show. Pay housekeeping more. Right? Otherwise, for Mr. Niles and me, Ralph Peterson,